April this year was the warmest April on record globally. That's the 11th month for which the temperature has been the warmest on record for the same month in all previous year for which we have data.
You just heard it. Global temperatures are rising higher and higher above the long-term average. April was the 11th consecutive month to become the hottest ever recorded. That's according to the EU's climate monitoring service. To experts, it's just another sign of the progressing climate breakdown. This, of course, has many people asking, how much hotter will it get? Well, a new survey by the British newspaper The Guardian has revealed a lot of pessimism among climate researchers. 380 of them, all from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, were asked how far they anticipate global average temperatures to rise above pre-industrial levels by the year 2100. 3/4 of them expect a rise of 2.5 degrees or more. That's a full degree above the internationally set target of 1.5 degrees Celsius. In fact, only 6% of those polled believe that that goal can still be met. And I'd like to welcome now one of the scientists who participated in the survey. Lisa Schipper is a professor for development geography at the University of Bonn. Good to have you on the show. Now, can I ask you what your prediction was for the year 2100?
I said 3 degrees. And I said that because if you look at the policies, the pledges, and the action that governments are taking now, we can see that we're not moving very quickly. And basically, there are predictions that suggest that we're going to hit maybe even 3.4, looking at the kind of policies that we have, and that is including policies. So I'm pessimistic. Yeah.
What do you make of the survey results overall? Because not everybody was as pessimistic as you were, but a lot of people were even more pessimistic. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a bit depressing that we're all so depressed. I mean, to be honest, because of course, I put in my responses and then I got to see the results. And I was probably shocked. I mean, I didn't expect that everybody was feeling as pessimistic as I was. So I think, it's really difficult to work with this subject. We're right in it all day long, and many of us for a very long time now. And so, of course, we see what's there, and, what the public sees is what gets communicated later. But of course, we see everything, even the messy stuff that doesn't have clear messages. So, yeah, I mean, we're very close to it. So therefore, I think we are not optimistic.
Yeah. What's really interesting is that the survey also notes a generational divide among the responses, with younger experts expecting higher temperature rises. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. And I actually think that has to do maybe partly because they have a longer time to live left. And therefore, they're thinking about, the future for them as well. And that could potentially make them even more pessimistic. But I'm not quite sure what it is either. Maybe it's also that they feel like, the way that we've been doing the science in the past hasn't been sufficient, and they just feel even less optimistic about kind of the kind of knowledge that we have, perhaps.
Yeah, but we're not basing this on feelings, are we? This is about scientific research that you and your peers are conducting, isn't it? Or was this more about the gut feeling ballpark that you expect?
No, but of course it's very difficult to separate the two in this case, because the questions were about, what do you expect? And we can look at what the model suggests, and we can look at sort of, what we see is happening, for example, with ecosystems and how, coral reefs, for example, are dying off and so on. And so, of course, that makes us depressed. But it's also, I think, this sense that, the science is there and it's really clear, and we're not seeing the action being taken. And that's part of what the survey was about, is, what is the kind of the sense that you feel when you deliver the science and the policymakers don't run with it and make the kind of changes that you would expect them to make. So it is a little bit of a combination of both, what we see as a scientific evidence combined with this experience of, living as a scientist and kind of hearing our messages fall flat.
Yeah, you were quoted in the article as saying that your only source of hope is seeing the next generation being so smart and understanding of, all the bits and pieces that play into that, including policy making. Do you think they will get into positions of power soon enough to reverse this trend?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit of a combination of, the kind of action on the ground also, protests and so on, and getting in and actually communicating with policymakers early. I think that a lot of young people do have more kind of energy and power to go in and make the kind of, these kinds of statements to influence policymakers in a different way. But I think that's a good point. When are they going to be in a decision-making position? But still, just the fact that I see, how of course, students are depressed, but I think that, they have great ideas, they're innovative, and I think that they see through a lot of the greenwashing, blah, blah, that the politicians think that we're buying. But the students get it, and I'm optimistic in that way.
That's good. It's not all pessimism. Let's look at your research, because you look at how climate change affects people, especially the vulnerable. What effects on humans do you anticipate if global heating really does reach or, in fact, exceed your prediction of 3 degrees?
Yeah, I mean, I try not to think too much about that, because actually, we're already seeing things popping up this year, right? We're having heat waves across Asia. The kind of things that we're expecting, people are going to be facing this tremendous heat and just not knowing where to go, where to turn to be able to find shade, to be able to find cool. And this really is going to have a lot of health impacts, but also I think both physical but also psychological impacts. I'm also aware of studies that are suggesting that by the end of the century, if things do go in that direction, that we end up with 3 degrees, that we're going to be looking at these sort of pockets of places where people simply can't even live, and that a third of the people around the world are going to be in those places. And so that, that suggests that we're also possibly looking at a lot of migration, and we need to think about what are the limits to how much we can actually adapt to that kind of a change, because we do have both kind of ecosystems have limits, but we also have limits in social systems. We need to have fresh water to drink. We can't survive without it. So if we live in places that don't have that, then we need to move.
No wonder you're pessimistic. That was Professor Lisa Schipper of the University of Bonn. It was great speaking to you nonetheless. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.